Have you ever poured your entire heart into someone, only to have them look you straight in the eye and say, "You'll never be family"? That's exactly what my stepchildren told me. And I was only 25, still trying to figure out who I was as a woman, a wife, and now, apparently, a stepmother. Their words pierced deeper than any knife, and that night, I cried myself to sleep wondering if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. When I married Daniel, I thought I was ready. He was gentle, warm, and unlike anyone I'd ever met. But he didn't come alone. He had 2 children, Emma, 13, sharp-eyed and guarded, and Lucas, 10, playful yet defiant. I remember telling myself, I'll be good to them. I'll love them as if they were my own. I wasn't trying to replace their mother. I just wanted to be part of something bigger, a family of my own. The first week after our wedding, I baked a cake and wrote "Welcome Home" with frosting. I set the table with candles, flowers, everything I could think of to make them smile. But when Emma saw it, she rolled her eyes and muttered, "Why are you trying so hard? You're not our mom." Lucas giggled, adding, "Yeah, we only listen to our real parents." Their words stung, but I laughed nervously, pretending it didn't matter. Inside, though, my heart cracked. Every day became a test. If I tried to help with homework, Emma would shut her books and walk away. If I asked Lucas to put away his shoes, he'd stare at me coldly. "You can't tell me what to do." At family dinners, they'd talk to Daniel but not to me, like I was invisible. I told myself, it's new. They'll adjust. Just give it time. But the more I tried, the more walls they built. One evening, while Daniel worked late, I cooked their favorite pasta. I set their plates, smiled, and said, "Dinner's ready." Emma crossed her arms and spat the words that would haunt me for weeks. "You will never be family." I froze. My throat tightened, my hands trembled. But I forced a smile and said softly, "Okay, Emma, eat when you're ready." Then I excused myself and cried silently in the kitchen. At night, I lay awake next to Daniel, afraid to tell him the truth. What if he thought I wasn't strong enough? What if he regretted marrying me? So instead of speaking up, I swallowed my pain. I replayed the children's words over and over. "You'll never be family." Maybe they were right. Maybe I was too young, too inexperienced, too naive to think I could step into their world and be accepted. But deep inside, something else was growing. A small, stubborn flame. I couldn't give up, not yet. I had promised Daniel I'd love his children. And maybe, just maybe, I could still prove them wrong. That night, I wiped my tears and whispered to myself, "If they don't want me as family, then I'll show them what family truly means." Not through words, but through actions. I didn't know it then, but this decision would change everything. The pain, the rejection, the tears, they would all lead me to a moment where Emma and Lucas would see me not as an outsider, but as the only person who truly stood by them. And when that moment finally came, it shocked us all. After Emma's cruel words, "You'll never be family," something inside me shattered. But instead of leaving, instead of breaking down in front of them, I chose silence. On the outside, I carried myself with dignity. On the inside, I was crumbling piece by piece. Daniel noticed my quietness. He would ask, "Are you okay, sweetheart?" And I'd force a smile, reply with, "Just tired." How could I tell him his children despised me? How could I admit that every time they called me not real, a piece of me died? Days turned into weeks and the tension grew heavier. Emma avoided me at every turn. She kept her headphones in at dinner, her eyes glued to her phone. Lucas slammed doors, muttered under his breath, sometimes calling me the stranger. One afternoon, I tried to help Emma with her science project. She snatched the paper out of my hand, eyes sharp with anger. "Stop pretending you care. You're not my mom and you never will be." I froze. Her words echoed like thunder. I wanted to scream, "I'm not trying to replace her." But the lump in my throat swallowed my voice. I turned, walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and sobbed until my eyes were swollen. At night, while Daniel slept, I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the wall. I was only 25, yet I felt 100 years old. Marriage was supposed to bring love, joy, belonging. But here I was, unwanted in my own home. I thought about leaving, packing my bags, walking away, saving myself the heartbreak. But then I remembered the promise I made to Daniel at the altar. Through every storm, I'll stand with you. I couldn't abandon him. I couldn't abandon them, even if they hated me. The cruelest moment came one evening when, Daniel suggested, we all watch a family movie together. I brought popcorn, trying to act cheerful. Emma rolled her eyes and said loudly, "Why is she here? She's not family." Daniel's face fell. He tried to scold her, but Lucas jumped in. "Yeah, Dad, we only have one mom. She's not it." The room went silent. My hands trembled as I placed the popcorn on the table. I whispered, "I'll give you some space," and walked away. In the kitchen, tears streamed uncontrollably. That was the night I realized something painful but necessary. No matter how much I begged for their love, they wouldn't give it freely. I had to earn it, not with words, but with actions. The next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror. Puffy eyes, messy hair, a broken spirit staring back at me. But deep in my chest, a quiet voice whispered, "Don't give up, prove them wrong." So I decided to stop forcing closeness. No more pleading for hugs, no more desperate smiles. Instead, I would simply show up for them, every day, in ways that couldn't be denied. If Emma needed a ride to school, I'd be waiting in the car, no questions asked. If Lucas forgot his homework, I'd quietly run it to the school office without seeking thanks. If they wanted to pretend I didn't exist, I'd let them, while still making sure they had everything they needed. I would become their silent constant, the one who stayed when everyone else failed. They didn't notice at first. They still ignored me, still threw sharp words my way. But slowly, ever so slowly, cracks began to form in their walls. Emma started glancing at me when she thought I wasn't looking. Lucas stopped slamming the door quite so hard. Small, almost invisible changes. But they gave me hope. What I didn't know was that soon, an unexpected moment of crisis would arrive. A moment that would push me to the front line, not as a stranger, not as the stepmom they never wanted, but as the only person left standing by their side. And when that moment came, everything began to change. I kept my promise to myself. I would stop forcing love, and instead quietly prove it. Day after day, I became a silent presence in Emma and Lucas's lives. They didn't notice me, not really, but I was always there. When Emma needed to be at school before sunrise for choir practice, I was already waiting in the car, sipping coffee, pretending I didn't mind the cold. When Lucas forgot his lunch, I left mine untouched at home and drove his to school, making sure it was on his desk before he even realized. When their birthdays came and their mother forgot, I stayed up all night baking cakes, yet I never signed my name on the card. They still ignored me. They still muttered that I wasn't family. But I didn't stop. Because deep down, I knew love isn't about titles. It's about showing up when no one else does. Then one night it happened. Emma had been quiet all evening, pale and restless. By midnight, I heard her crying softly from her room. I knocked gently. "Emma, are you okay?" No reply. I walked in and found her curled up, shivering with fever. Her forehead burned under my palm, her body trembling. Panic rose in my chest. "Emma, you're burning up. We need to get you help." She turned her face away, whispering weakly, "I don't need you. I want Mom." Her words stung, but there was no time to argue. I tucked her into blankets, grabbed medicine, and sat by her bed through the night, changing cold cloths on her forehead, whispering comfort even though she didn't answer. By dawn, her fever had calmed. As I prepared to leave her room quietly, she murmured one word I thought I'd never hear. "Thank you?" That single moment cracked the wall just slightly. Emma didn't suddenly accept me, but something shifted. She stopped glaring quite as sharply. She began looking at me with curiosity instead of hatred. Lucas noticed too. He teased Emma. "Wow, you actually said thank you to her?" But even he started softening. He still called me not real, but sometimes, when he thought I wasn't looking, he smiled at me. For the first time in months, I felt hope. A week later, another test arrived. Daniel had to leave town for work, and their biological mother promised to pick the kids up for the weekend. Emma and Lucas packed their bags, sat by the window, and waited. An hour passed. 2 hours. Still no car. Emma's face crumbled as she whispered, She forgot again. Lucas tried to be brave, but his eyes filled with tears. My heart ached for them. I didn't say a word. I just grabbed the car keys. "Come on," I said softly. "Let's get some ice cream." They resisted at first, but hunger and sadness won. At the ice cream shop, I let them order whatever they wanted: sprinkles, fudge, extra scoops. By the time we reached the park, Lucas was laughing, chasing pigeons, and Emma was smiling despite herself. That day, for the first time, they let me sit beside them on the swings. No words of acceptance, no promises of love, just silence. But it was softer than before. As the sun set, Emma whispered almost to herself, "Why do you even care? We're not your kids." I didn't answer. I just smiled and said, "Because sometimes family is chosen." She didn't reply, but she didn't argue either. I didn't know it then, but this small shift was leading us toward a moment I never imagined. A moment in a hospital room, under the cold gaze of a doctor, when Emma herself would change everything with a single sentence. It was supposed to be a normal evening. Emma had been quiet but smiling, reading in her room, while Lucas was sprawled on the couch with his video games. I was in the kitchen stirring pasta when suddenly I heard the crash. I rushed in and found Emma collapsed on the floor, her face pale, her lips trembling. The book had slipped from her hands. "Emma, Emma, talk to me!" Her eyes fluttered, unfocused. My heart pounded. Without a second thought, I grabbed my phone, called Daniel, and then 911. My hands shook as I held Emma, whispering, "Stay with me, sweetheart, please." Lucas stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. "Is she going to die?" he shouted. I swallowed my fear, forcing strength into my voice. "No, she's going to be okay. I promise." The sirens wailed as the ambulance carried us through the night. I clutched Emma's hand, refusing to let go. At the emergency ward, everything blurred. Bright lights, rushing nurses, the metallic scent of antiseptic. A doctor in his 40s, serious-eyed, approached. "Are you her mother?" he asked quickly. I hesitated, breath catching in my throat. Before I could answer, Emma whispered hoarsely, her eyes barely open. "She's my mom." Those 3 words shattered every wall I had been fighting against for months. Tears burned in my eyes, but I squeezed her hand tighter. The doctor nodded. "Then you need to sign these papers." For the first time, no one questioned my place. No one argued. In that moment, I was Emma's mother. They wheeled her into the treatment room, leaving me and Lucas in the cold hallway. Lucas clung to my arm, trembling. "I'm scared," he whispered. I stroked his hair. "I know, honey, but she's strong. She's going to fight through this." We sat there for hours, time crawling like a punishment. Every sound of footsteps made my heart jump. I prayed silently, bargaining with fate. "Take everything from me. Just don't take her." Finally, the doctor returned. His face was tired but calm. "She's stable now. Severe dehydration, combined with low blood sugar. We'll keep her overnight for observation, but she's out of danger." Relief crashed over me. Lucas broke into sobs, clinging to me. And for the first time, he didn't resist when I held him tight. When they finally let me in, Emma was lying pale but awake, IV lines in her arms. She looked at me, her eyes watery. "You stayed all night?" she whispered. I laughed softly through my tears. Of course. Where else would I be? Her hand trembled as she reached for mine. For the first time, she didn't pull away. She held on. Lucas sat on the other side of the bed, his small hand brushing hers. The 3 of us stayed like that in silence, connected not by blood, but by something stronger, choice. As I looked at them, exhaustion flooding me, I realized something had changed forever. They might never call me mom every day, but in that hospital room, under the watch of the doctor, they had chosen me. What I didn't know was that soon, their biological mother would return, angry, bitter, and ready to tear apart the fragile bond we had just begun to build. And when she did, the kids would have to make the hardest choice of their lives. The hospital room had grown quiet in the early morning light. Emma was resting peacefully. Lucas had finally drifted to sleep in the chair beside her, and I sat by the window watching the sunrise. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful. But hope can be fragile. The door burst open without warning. A woman stepped in, her heels clicking against the floor, her perfume sharp and overpowering. Rachel, Daniel's ex-wife, the kid's biological mother. Her eyes swept the room, landing on me first. They narrowed into daggers. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. I stood slowly, trying to steady my voice. "Rachel," Emma fainted. "She's been through a lot. Please keep your voice down." Rachel scoffed, marching past me to Emma's bed. "Sweetheart, Mommy's here now," she cooed, brushing Emma's hair back. "Don't worry, I'll take care of everything." Lucas stirred, rubbing his eyes. When he saw his mother, he jumped up. "Mom?" His voice was small, uncertain. Rachel spread her arms. "Of course, baby. Come here." He went to her, but his glance flickered back toward me. I saw the confusion, the hesitation. My chest tightened. Rachel noticed it too. Her smile turned cold. "What lies has she been feeding you?" she demanded, pointing at me. "She's not your family. She never will be. Don't forget who your real mother is." Emma stirred awake, blinking in confusion. Her eyes moved between Rachel and me, then settled on my trembling hands. "Mom," she whispered, her voice weak. For a moment, Rachel's face brightened. But then Emma turned her head toward me, and the word that followed nearly broke Rachel apart. "Don't fight with her, please!" Rachel froze. "Her? You mean her?" She gestured toward me, venom dripping from her voice. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "She stayed with me all night. She didn't leave. She cares." Lucas tugged on Rachel's sleeve. "She's right, Mom. She helped us. She loves us." Rachel's expression hardened, anger replacing hurt. "You two are children. You don't understand. She's nothing but a replacement. Your father chose her, not you. And when she's gone, you'll see. Blood is all that matters." Her words cut like knives. For months, I had feared exactly this moment, that I would never be enough, no matter how much love I gave. But before I could speak, Emma's small voice rose again, trembling yet firm. "No, Mom, family isn't just blood." Rachel's face twisted with rage, her hands clenching at her sides. She looked at me with open hatred. "You think you can steal my children from me? You're nothing, do you hear me? Nothing!" The nurse rushed in, alarmed by the shouting, and asked Rachel to step outside. But the damage was already done. The room buzzed with tension, my heart racing. As Rachel stormed out, her words echoed in my mind. She wasn't done. She would fight me for the children, and not just with words. And deep down, I knew part 6 of this story would decide everything. Who the children truly belonged to, and what family really meant. The days after the hospital were a blur. Emma had recovered enough to come home, but the peace was gone. Rachel showed up at the house almost every day, demanding time with the kids, her voice sharp, her presence suffocating. Daniel tried to mediate, but he was exhausted, torn between his past and present. And I lived with the fear that at any moment, the fragile trust I had built with Emma and Lucas would shatter under Rachel's bitterness. One evening, Rachel stood in our living room, arms crossed. "I've spoken to my lawyer," she declared. "If this continues, I'll fight for full custody. Those children are mine, not yours." The words made me freeze. I wasn't their mother by law. If Rachel won, I would lose everything. Emma's quiet trust, Lucas's soft smiles, the fragile moments of family we had carved together. Emma and Lucas were standing nearby, listening, their faces pale. Rachel didn't notice. She only saw me. "You'll never be family," she spat. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then Emma, her voice shaking but determined, spoke. "No, Mom, you're wrong." Rachel's head snapped toward her. "What did you just say?" Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. She walked over to me and slipped her small hand into mine. "She is family. She stayed when no one else did. She cared when it was hard. She's not just Dad's wife. She's my mom, too." Rachel's face crumbled, disbelief flashing in her eyes. Lucas stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Yeah, she's been here for us every single day. When you yelled, when you left, when Emma fainted, she never walked away. She's our mom, even if you don't want her to be." He grabbed my other hand, holding on tightly. My knees almost buckled from the weight of their words. Tears blurred my vision, my heart pounding with a mix of shock and overwhelming love. Rachel's face twisted, but she had no words left. The children's voices, once her power, had turned against her. She looked at Daniel, searching for support, but he stood firm, his arm around my shoulder. "Rachel," he said quietly, "you'll always be their biological mother. No one can change that. But you can't erase what she means to them. Love made her family." For the first time, Rachel faltered. Her anger wavered, replaced by something almost like sorrow. Without another word, she turned and walked out, the door slamming behind her. The silence that followed was heavy, but different. Emma hugged me tightly, her tears soaking into my shirt. Lucas pressed into my side. I whispered through my sobs, "You don't have to call me Mom if you're not ready." Emma pulled back, her eyes fierce. "No, you are Mom." Lucas nodded. Forever. In that moment, every rejection, every cruel word, every doubt I had carried broke apart. They had chosen me, not by blood but by heart. And for the first time since I became their stepmother, I didn't feel like an outsider. I felt what I had always longed to feel, home.